Quick introduction, guys. Next video is shot outside. It's me walking, talking chill about the balance between giving and taking in social skills and sort of like the spiritual evolution of things. So I think it has some good insights. If you like that, stay around. I hope you enjoy. It's not necessarily about a balance. It's more just that both energies can have usefulness and can have meaning. If we look at it's a little bit of a silly example. If we look at this song from the Spice Girls, if you want to be my lover, you have got to give. So it's a silly example, but this is kind of true, right? If you want good connections, if you want good friendships, you have to be able to give. Now, the thing with giving is that it can be like a very nice feeling if you can genuinely give someone. It can be very, very good for the receiver as well. And usually when we give something, we tend to give something without expecting something back in return. That's kind of like what usually giving is like. The problem is sometimes when we give something to someone and then we don't get anything back. Most of us, if we're in a healthy state, we won't really mind, we will be okay with that. But if that keeps happening, then it will be we will start wondering whether that person actually has genuine intent with us naturally, right? So then that can sometimes bring about feelings of resentment and feelings of being used for giving. And that is all very, very real, right? And that is where the energies of, the dark energies of revenge and taking is a little bit less of a darker form of that, but it's a little bit the same thing. It's just hey, now it's my turn, now I'm gonna take, right? So that is the other form, and it's not a bad form. It's basically it depends on how you use it, right? If you use it right, it can be a form of setting healthy boundaries. It can be a form of respecting yourself. Even others will respect you when you take in a healthy way, when you're able to set boundaries, when you're able to bring about justice. That's also a form, in a way it's a form of giving, but in another it's a way of taking, right? Because justice means it's a form of revenge in a way. But then when you take revenge too far, you can get into some really unhealthy dark states. The same as what happens with when you give from the wrong place, or when you give too much, you don't get anything in return. Then it's the same thing that happens in reverse, right? When you are too much focused on revenge, when you too much focus on taking. So I think that's just the way I currently see it. And I was just walking because it's Grensenfeesten. It's one of the last days, and so that I actually went to some places where they were playing some songs. There's different venues. There's one venue that has more of nightlife ambience, even though it's during the day, but it's nightlife type of music and atmosphere and songs. and that's where they were playing like one of the Spice Girls songs, because that was really reminding me of like the period when I went out, when I just, because I don't really do nightlife a lot, but I did have a period where I did, and even though most of that I didn't like that, I also had some really cool experiences. And that's also perhaps the part with my entire story as well. Right, when you look at my arc, it's like I came to this city and then started practicing like a lot of social skills and a lot of approaches from a feeling of not being good enough, from deep insecurity and deep anxiety and awkwardness, social awkwardness. And so doing these things gave me confidence, but a lot of it also came from the energy of taking, the energy of bringing about justice for myself. And while that was a good thing for me, because it gave me healthy boundaries, the problem is, like, you know, violence always comes, it's a form of violence, right, when you're setting boundaries, and violence also always comes with damage, right? And so it's natural and it's necessary, at least in a healthy way, but when you evolve, when you get past a certain stage, I gotta look back on my past self, and I gotta be able to forgive the people that hurt me because I was insecure. And I look back on some of my actions and I'm thinking like, well, did I really need to do that? But that's not me being a bad person. That's just me being imperfect. Looking back at what I did, you know, I probably could have went about things better, but you know, I had only the options I had at the time. And given that, I did everything I could. So you can only, it's like Steve Jobs said, like, you can only connect the dots looking backward, not forward. So focus on like the experience, right? And then connect the dots looking backward. Don't stress over it. So yeah, that's what I need to say. So really, I can come about this from my story with like social skills, and I can talk about how, you know, I felt insecure and how I felt like, I don't know, people, like I had to take revenge on the world or something like that. And so, in a way, I actually felt like that was justified in a way, but in another, you know, you've got to learn to give, and that's the reality of it, I think. And I think you always need a point where you're evolving, and sometimes you need to learn to set boundaries when you feel like you're really being taken advantage of, and don't just focus on the feeling, also make sure that, you know, you're rational about things, that you're not feeling the wrong things. But if you are being abused, or if you're not being treated fairly, then you need to set boundaries, right? But the other part of the story is also true, that when you evolve beyond that, then you need to learn to give as well, right? So that's just the way it is. I hope you like the video. Check out the next video if you want. Cheers.